Hello, and thanks for joining me. Working for Yourself, Zulf Talks podcast. We have an amazing guest today. It will be a bit of a treat for you. We're covering the topic from the point of view of getting started with a podcast for a small business. We'll cover things like, is it good to have a podcast? Why you should think about it? What benefits can it bring to you? Is it really expensive? Do you have to buy lots of gear? We're going to cover a number of points in the aim to help you get started. Now, today I have got a special guest with me from the San Francisco Bay Area broadcaster. He's a co-host of the Smartacle podcast, and he is a pro. He's been doing it for a fair few while, so we'll all learn a thing or two from him. Larry Olsen. Hello, Larry.
Zulf, I am so honored to be here with you. Thank you for having me. I love your show. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I think it's something we can all learn from yourself. You've got amazing quality content out there, especially on your podcast. I listened to a few episodes and I was like, you know what? That guy makes it sound so natural and he's nicely talking to everybody. So you can easily see the years of experience you've got there. What's your favorite part of podcasting?
Hold on real quick. Can you call my wife and tell her all those nice things you just said to me? Because she would...
You'll be surprised. This is live at the moment and we are recording segments out. So I might make a special segment that you can send to her and say, you know what, all the way from the UK, someone has given me some amazing stuff.
I don't know if you understand the term brownie points, but I could use brownie points, Zulf.
Yeah, we could all use some of those.
So what was the question again? I'm sorry, I messed you up. I gave you a compliment.
That's right. So podcasting, what is it that you like? Apart from what we just did, this banter is amazing, but what's your main drive for podcasting?
So I've been a broadcaster my whole life. I'm now a grown man at like 49 years old. At 19, I was a college sophomore, and I took a job as an intern for a radio station. And it was two DJs sitting there talking, farting, and eating donuts and having a great time. And I was like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, make people laugh. And the reason I love broadcasting, the reason I love podcasting is because it's the ultimate multitasking thing. So when you're doing the dishes, because the wife makes you do the dishes, or walking the dog, or driving your commute, you can be listening to something and learning something, hearing a story. I just love that idea that while you're bored doing the dishes, you could learn something. Or, which has been my greatest experience as a broadcaster, someone has a horrible commute, an hour ride to work every day, and they listen to me, and I might provide them just a minute of laughter or inspiration. So that's why I love doing it. I love listening to it, and the fact that I even get to be a part of someone's process and bring them a minute of joy, that's why I love doing it.
That's amazing there. So from what you've just said, that's the perfect example for the audience that's listening. So if you're thinking about setting up a podcast, the reason you should do it is the reason Larry just mentioned there. All these little things that make it more easy to listen to. People are more willing to give you a bit of time while they're doing another job because they want a distraction from their life. So it's always nice, like you say, to make them laugh, give them some tips, which can be in a number of different ways. You do it in a great way on your podcast yourself because you're covering articles, topics with your co-host. And it's always nice to hear this fresh approach because everybody has a different way of looking at it. So I'm pleased you mentioned those points, and also it's good to hear that you enjoy it because of the result, which is getting other people a little bit of happiness. So if we're thinking about setting up a podcast and we're really new to the table, from your experience, I can easily see that you would have back then used different equipment, so maybe older equipment, which is not expensive, not as up to date. But how do you think someone starting off with a podcast, picking up a cheap mic, something like a Samsung Q2U or something simple, $80, $90, $100, would get them seated up to set up with that? Is that a good starting point for someone?
Absolutely. But here's the one thing I really want to reiterate about this. If you're doing a podcast, it's audio, right? And you know this, Zulf. You've had people on your show and they're doing podcasts and it's the microphone from a computer and it sounds horrible. If you're going to do a podcast, which is audio, it has to sound good. You could just be saying the word cats, cats, cats. I'd rather hear that over and over with a good microphone than someone saying some of the most brilliant thing in their hallway in a closet. I think this is what, it's so inexpensive to get a good microphone. I don't know whether you guys have Radio Shacks in the UK or whatever it is. It's so inexpensive. You can, for $100, you can get all that you need to have a good sounding podcast. Less than $100.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned that. I've had a few people on. They've all been amazing guests, but just that extra element of the audio, because it is a podcast, investing in yourself, investing in your company, making it sound nice and easy, doesn't have to be expensive. Like you mentioned, even Amazon, you can pick up mics and have them delivered to you. So they are global now. So I'm glad you mentioned that, especially with a lot of people have got podcasts and they've got 300-400 episodes. And I'm surprised when they're actually recording a lot of it on equipment which is questionable, because obviously people listening want a nice, like you say, a radio quality voice. Because if I'm listening in the car, I've got my radio on, I'm listening to really good voice, and then I switch over to my podcast, I want to have at least a equivalent. You can tell a big difference when you hear something good and not something not as good. So I'm glad you mentioned that, as well as the budget side of it. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can pick up a microphone as long as you're positioning it correctly and you're not fiddling with it. It normally tends to pick up noise really well from quite close distance. So as you get better, you can get more expensive, get more add-ons, and which are things in the future. But the other side of this will be along the lines of, do you need to have dedicated space? So I know you mentioned like the hallway, that makes even some rooms, people don't have much furniture and the echo is just horrendous. Have you got any tips around that to just give us a bit of insight?
So, great question, Zulf. When the pandemic went down, I worked at a radio station, like an actual radio station. And they were like, you can't work here anymore. You got to go to your home and work. And I was like, I live in San Francisco. We live in 800 square feet. Tiny, tiny. So now I have my 3 kids, home school, my wife, who's a teacher, homeschool. Where am I going to do my radio broadcasting? We literally put me in the one closet that we had at my house. Now, it was tiny and there was some claustrophobia, but it sounded perfect because the clothes in the tiny space made it sound like I was in my studio back at my professional occupation. So it's closets. Sometimes I've seen people draped with blankets over their head. But the worst is like someone at a kitchen table in a spacious room, and you mentioned it, where that sound is just pinging off walls. That's the worst. So closet, go into the closet. Some people joke that I was never going to come out of the closet. I did eventually make it out of the closet. The pandemic ended up back in my studio, but I was in the closet for like 2 years.
Okay, so there you go. Already now, I've got a lot of acoustic foam and things here because this is quite a wide room. But like you say, you don't have to spend money on that type of thing. Simple as hanging up a few blankets, maybe looking at your duvet and hanging that up on the side.
Correct.
Just reduces it. A lot of people don't think about this. They'll make the episode, they'll record it all, and they'll think it sounds okay because they're used to hearing that quality of sound. It's only when you hear something else, then you think back, wait a minute, play an episode of someone you like and then listen to your episode. Why does that sound different? Well, a couple of things which you can look at. All these are available online. There's loads of episodes on YouTube and everywhere to help you with this. We're just trying to condense it and give it to you real life, because a lot of the times, something that you can learn in 2 minutes, you'll spend 20 minutes on a YouTube video where they're fluffing it out. But today, because we've got a pro here, he's telling you how it is. You can simply get simple things to help you make it sound a lot better. Now, this is going to be an interesting area because you can have the perfect area, you can have the perfect microphone. The topics, the conversations, they're hard to do. You make it sound so natural. How do you have this? Has it just come over time, or do you have any tips that you can give someone who's new, who's not as confident on camera or on mic?
Well, so there's 2 different things going on there, right? Is it someone who wants to talk by themselves? I don't have 60 minutes of straight gangster just speaking top of mind. So then you have a partner, right? So you choose someone that you could bounce ideas off. Or are you interviewing someone, having somebody come on? The number one thing for me as a broadcaster, since it's, for however many years now, is like you just got to be, as much as you're a speaker, you're also a listener. So if you have a partner, you're listening to them and responding to what them say. Or if you're interviewing someone, you have to hear what they're saying, so that leads to the next question. So I really think being a podcaster or broadcaster and doing that with someone else, you just have to listen. And there's so many people in the world that don't want to listen. Honestly, my motto in life is stop talking, ask questions, and you could change the world. I think the problem with the world right now is too many people are talking instead of asking questions. We're not trained anymore to ask questions. So can you listen to someone, process what they just said, and then ask a question? If you could do that, I think your podcasting, broadcasting career could take right off.
Yeah, I think it's naturally having that inclination. So thinking about it, that you're not recording, you're probably having a conversation. If you were speaking to someone, oh right, you said you're living in the Bay Area. What's that like? These little things that you would normally ask. And if you speak like a conversation, normally the people listening will be like, oh yeah, they're just talking. So it doesn't sound rehearsed. Like a lot of our episodes are just conversation led. We have a few areas that we want to touch, but it's nice to have that. So if you're not as confident with that, things you can do is look at other channels. You can look at Smartacle podcast and see how he does it, because it gives you a nice bouncing rhythm. They're just talking amongst themselves. Oh yeah, I saw this article, we looked at this, what do you think? Personal opinions, lots of mixed emotions. So it's nice to take the people listening or watching on that journey with you. So if you are new to it, spend a little bit of money, get the right gear, start practicing recording episodes yourself. If you're able to get guests on, see how you would speak to that guest, and try to be, you've got a guest on, let them speak about what they're interested in and you bounce off that. Because sometimes, like Larry mentioned, they start talking about themselves more, which you've already got your podcast. People know who you are. You want to hear both sides of the story.
Well, I want to say this too, Zulf, is that every time you go to a party or a birthday party or a kid's party or wherever, and you have a conversation with someone, that's like a mini podcast. Like, it's your chance to practice looking someone in the eye, asking them a question, following up on a question. Like, life is all basically mini podcasts and mini interviews. So if you're nervous about, like, oh, I can't do a podcast now because there's a mic and there's someone there, I got to ask him questions. You do that all the time. It's you're getting practice all the time. So just move that over to the microphone. Have a conversation.
You've already given me an idea there. What we need to do is get a portable microphone, start rocking up at parties.
Yes.
Call it party 5-minute parties. Start asking people questions. That's a whole new podcast there we could set up.
If I was your neighbor, I would start that podcast with you, Zulf. Can we do it together?
You can
cross the oceans? Okay.
I think in this we probably can do, because they got these. Have you seen those people that have a backpack and they have all live streaming gear? They go to football clubs and they actually stream the actual club football. What? That's a thing.
Well, I don't get this. I'm an old man. You're a young whippersnapper, Zulf. My kids, they love watching other kids play video games on YouTube. Like, that's a thing. Like, I like watching football games. I'm a Liverpool fan. I like watching. I don't want to watch other people watch football games. That seems silly.
That's the age we've come to, I think. You're right.
Yes.
It's just been more. I think what's happened is we used to like doing things, but now people are getting to a point that, wait a minute, why should I put the effort into doing it when I can watch someone else doing it for me? It's amazing. They get the same experience as if they've done it. It's like, you'll have example. Someone will watch a YouTube video of how to plaster a wall, and they'll think they're a pro. Anybody asks them a question about it, or how do you hardwood on the wall? And they'll be like, yeah, I know how to do it. And they'll get to an interview stage, they'll get a job. When it comes to doing it, they're like, wait a minute, this is nothing like the video. Because that person in the video has been doing it for 10 years and he's got perfect experience. It's like, for example, you're doing a lot of talking vocals. It's very hard to get a nice equal voice, so that obviously, because the waveforms, all of that makes a difference when the editor in the background sorting it all out. So over the years, you understand, okay, I need to speak off the microphone in a certain angle to make sure I'm not speaking straight into it. But that comes with time. You can't listen to one episode or go watch one YouTube video and expect to know everything. You need to take a bit of time out and practice. So that's the main thing with today's episode. We're giving you ideas, we're giving you tips, but you will at some point need to jump in. We can take you to the water, but we can't make you drink it.
Zulf, we're all experts now. Come on, I could spackle my own wall. I could do some drywalling. I could do anything. I just got a YouTube video. I got it.
God, what was the last DIY job you did then?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's funny. I'm a football referee. Oh. So we call it soccer here in the United States. My son was turning 13, and all he did was play video games and play soccer. And I was like, hey, we need to expand your horizons a little bit. You got to do more than just play video games. So I made him become a soccer referee, football referee. And the guy who was in charge of the league said, hey, Dad, we're short referees. We need you to do it as well. And I was like, no. He's like, nope, we need you to do it. So I'm a soccer referee. It's like my giving back to the community of, like, which I don't know how it is in England, but nobody likes the referee. Parents don't like the referee. The coaches don't like the referee. Nobody likes the referee. So it's this idea of, like, doing it for the community, taking the bad energy and going out and serving the community by being the soccer referee.
That was going to be my next question. Referee is a tough job because either side, at some point, they're not going to like you. It's like being a politician. No matter what you do, someone's not going to be happy. So I'm well done for doing that job. That's a hard job.
But I think it's a really valuable job in this world, in that if you realize parents have negative energy that they're bringing to a game, coaches have negative energy. The job of a referee is really almost to just be the lightning rod, take everybody's negative energy, and then just disperse it. Don't interact with the parent who's yelling at you or the coach. It's just like taking that negative energy, letting them have it, and then they go back to their life and they don't think about you at dinner. Oh, that referee with that bad call, and then it's gone the next day. Referees are just lightning rods, and then it goes away.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Because in the moment, the heat of the moment, people would have whatever. But then after a while, it just goes, oh, yeah, that's part and parcel of that kind of job. It's like, do you have traffic wardens in where you are, where they give you tickets on cars?
Oh, yeah.
It's like those guys. They'll give you a ticket, you have a moan at them, and then 10 minutes later, oh, well, I did park in the wrong place, so it's one of those.
Oh, but they're so expensive in San Francisco, Zulf. They're so expensive.
Go on, give me an example. So they tow your car away after a certain amount of time, or?
Oh, yeah, they tow your car. So they have like street sweeping, like so they want to clean the streets, and if you don't move your car like 6 a.m. at whatever day, come out, your car's moved. I mean, oh, jeez. We have those. We have the cameras at the intersection. If you run a light, they take the picture, and then they take. Oh my gosh!
And then they post the picture to your house saying, "Can you pay a fine, please?" Oh,
yes.
Man. We're just living in the culture now. Everything's monitored. You can't get away with anything.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so bringing it back a little bit there, we've talked a little bit about gear, we talked about acoustics, making sure the room's right, the energy that you've got in terms of speaking. What about topics or interests? What would you say led you to go into the arena that you did for your podcast, like the topic? Did you keep it wide, or what led you to that choice?
So our show, Smartacle podcast, is 10 minutes on one article every single day. And it's an idea of, if you listen to our show, maybe it's lubrication for you to think about something different. We just did a show on 5% of the plastic in the world. Only 5% of plastic in the world gets recycled. I know UK, Europeans are very much more into the universe and recycling and composting, but only 5% of the actual plastic in the world gets recycled. We ship to other countries, blah, blah, blah. It's this idea of, if we could just plant an idea of how can you make the world a better place. So I can't change your mind by talking to you, but hopefully I could maybe inspire you to have a discussion with yourself that you would then leave and go like, oh, well, only 5% of the world, or whatever. Just hoping to inspire with a 10-minute conversation for you to think about something differently.
Okay, so that's interesting. The one I thought listened to was a psychopath versus that. I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And there's loads of conversations around what you should. I'm not going to tell you what it was about. You need to go and check it out on his episode. It's an amazing conversation. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Because what happens is you get different perspectives from different people who see it differently. And it's like, wait a minute, that's interesting. So it gets you hooked. And there's a nice energy in them as well. So definitely check that out.
So have you ever seen the movie Shrek? Do you know the movie Shrek?
Yeah.
Okay. So my partner, Brandon, is the real life Shrek. He's a giant ogre and I'm his talking donkey. He's been my friend for 20 years. And I'm serious, he's a giant man. He played like American football.
Okay.
He's a big lineman. He's like 6'5", 350 pounds. He's this giant guy, right? And he walks into the room and everybody notices him. He's loud. He's bombastic. He's unnoticeable everywhere he goes. And he's got this loud opinions. And I just really think he's really intelligent. And I love, but most people hate him. But if you just listen to him, you might get a little bit of inspiration. So he's the loud, bombastic person that might know you think. I'm the talking donkey. I try to lubricate his ideas that maybe you might glean something from the loud Shrek.
You got the better part of the deal there, because Eddie Murphy plays the Shrek, the donkey's voice, doesn't he?
Yes.
It's been a long time since I've heard anything from Eddie Murphy. He used to have Big Mamas and all those.
He just did Coming to America too.
Oh yes, that's on Amazon Prime, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes. But I have to be careful with that because he swears quite a lot, so I can't watch it with the family.
Exactly.
Some of his jokes are a bit more intense.
Yes.
I think that's from the older days when it was a bit more free flowing, that kind of banter.
Yep.
But yeah. He's probably listening now. We're
It
on
could
Reddit
be.
at the moment.
It could be.
So you never know. For those listening today, we are on the podcast at the moment. We are doing the Apple podcast. However, if you want to watch the video format, Apple podcast, you can hear the video audio. On Spotify, they actually released video and audio, so you'll see this both there, as well as YouTube. And if you're live, you can hear us on Reddit. So taking this a little bit further now, to summarize some of the points around podcasting and finding the right idea for you, how would you relate your journey through life with podcasting and how well it's done for you? For example, if someone new starts with podcasting, could they boost their business or their personal self to a point that it basically pays the bills?
That's a good question, Zulf. You're good at what you do because that's a good question. Here's the deal. I think people think they're going to start a podcast and they're going to be instantly become rich and famous and 1,000 people are going to listen to it, right? That's not the case. But if there's a reason you want, so let's say you're a small business owner and you have an insurance company, right? And you wanted to talk insurance. You wanted people to understand why they should have insurance, what insurance is good for, how they get it. And you could do that in an entertaining way so people would actually listen. Why would you not do that? If you don't make a lot of grammatical mistakes, you just hit the record button, you're done in 30 minutes, and it doesn't take too much time. Knowing that you're not going to become a millionaire and a million people aren't going to listen, but if it helps your business, if you could put it on your website so that people could be like, oh, I want to know about it, and you're entertaining. I just think there's ways to. So if you're an accountant and you want to help people with their taxes, can you speak for 30 minutes, entertaining, informative, help people learn about their taxes, how they fill their forms? I think it could be useful. You're just not going to make money at it, right? That's the main part. You're not going to make money, but you might make it an entertaining product.
Yes, okay. I'm glad you said that, because the reason I loaded that question to you in that way was a lot of people think that YouTube podcast kind of is like a moneymaker. You just do episodes and it just comes in. There's a lot of effort involved, a lot of work involved. But like you said, if you link it back to your business, that's the main area you're providing value. It's not the money side of it. Think of it, if you've got a business, in this example, if it's an accounting firm, frequently asked questions from your customers. You want to just make a podcast episode. When a customer asks you, here's a link, have a listen to that. This is designed specially for you. That way, you've got your client happy because they've just heard you for 30 minutes. That's like a custom service. They're listening to you for 30 minutes on the topic they want to know about, but 30 other customers have asked about that topic. When should I put my tax return in? What can I claim on my tax return? Do I need to do certain paperwork before ahead of time? Standard questions that can apply to multiple people. And you can have those episodes ready and then do it in an entertaining way. You're sorted. That'll get them hooked, and then you're sorted for life. So accountancy firm, insurances, businesses where you're selling products, you can do episodes around each product. That, you know what, I've released a new camera, but you should listen to the podcast. I talk about why it's made in a certain way, because some customers that buy it want to know, why is that flip up in that way? What does that mean? So there's loads of little interesting ideas around it, and treat it like a helping location. Don't treat it like a money maker, and you'll be perfectly fine. And the money will come at some point. You'll get a pro broadcasting contract with a radio station, and you'll be loving it. Playing Donkey and Shrek will be our main episode trailer.
I hope this interview with you, Zulf, is going to get me a job on the BBC. That's what I'm actually really working for here.
You'll be surprised. The BBC have been struggling recently. They've been taking a lot of license payers' money and trying to get us amazing contracts. They're too busy making episodes on iPlayer. Are you familiar with iPlayer?
Oh, yeah.
So iPlayer is basically like a Netflix, and they put BBC money into videos to put on there. They make amazing videos. They're really good. So they are putting a lot of budget in there. But yeah, it's tough getting a job in the BBC.
Oh, yeah. That's not easy.
People like me anyway, but I'm sure you'll get it because you've got the core skills there.
I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd work for the BBC in 5 seconds.
Which department would you want to work in, though?
Oh, I mean, broadcasting, of course.
But would you want to stick to like the radio station, sports, news?
Of course. And all of the above. News, sports. The only thing I don't know, and you can help me out with, Zulf, is cricket. I can't do cricket, but I could do football, of course, tennis,
But normally they're quite good. In the BBC, they give you scripts already written up, so you'll just read out in your amazing voice, and they'll tell you, and you'll sound like an expert in cricket once they give it to you, because they have writers writing for that area, like, oh yeah, last week we had X amount of players, and I'm not really good on sport, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not following on. I'm not cricket. I'm not too big on sports in general. I'm more creative, as in I'll make things and do things, and I'd rather spend that time there. But I know it's important during life. You want to have some type of sports because it gives you that winning losing mentality, which is good. But I don't know. It's interesting.
You don't have a football team, Zulf?
No, I'm not. I don't really follow it.
None.
I'm not.
What's your closest team? The stadium that you live closest to?
Aston Villa or
Oh, you do
Birmingham?
Aston Villa. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're quite
Yes.
close to me. But a lot of people get really excited about football, and it's like nice to see. But then, yeah, I just
So Aston Villa
yeah.
just fired their manager, Steven Gerrard, who
Oh,
was a former Liverpool great. So that's
Ah.
yeah.
yeah. See, all this stuff I hardly ever pay
Okay.
attention to. I'm like, but then that's a conversation killer. Then I need to start researching that. But some things I'll look at things that interest me, and I'll know more about them, like cameras, live streaming, podcasting, live streaming on Amazon.com. So I do a lot of live streams about products on Amazon.com where we talk about actual items. So all of that side of it I'm interested in, but I've never really done the football side. I think I need to take lessons.
My wife says I'm the ultimate cocktail party guest because she can take me anywhere, and I know a little bit about a lot of things. So someone has a camera, or they're a football fan, or they're whatever. Like you just knowing that makes like the ultimate cocktail guest. I know a little bit about enough of things so that if I get stuck in the corner with someone at a party, I'd be like, "Hey, so you're a baker? Oh, I heard croissants are hard to make," or whatever it is.
I think what we need to do is find out a way of cloning you and then selling you off in multiples so everybody can have a bit of you to take
Once
along
again,
with them.
can you call my wife and see if she thinks we can clone me?
Yes, there must be. I'm sure in this day and age, there must have some software that can
My
do
wife would vote that down immediately.
But yeah, I think that's a nice overview of today. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I love what you do. I think this is so great, and it's so accessible on YouTube. Once again, for all the different things you're going, I've definitely been inspired by your professionalism and all of the different types of formats that you're using and how you go about it. And you check the levels. I am a non-detail guy. Like I love to just turn on the microphone and talk. But you just have the intelligence and the patience to take every little step and check things, blah, blah, blah. So that's why me and my wife make a good team. She pays the bills. She's detail oriented. I'm the captain of the fun team. I'm in charge of making sure we have fun things to do and parties to go to. So I work well with detail people like you, Zulf.
That's good. I think what happens is, like you say, we always need a yin and a yang. So you're the main course, and we're like the side dishes around you just to help you get to the main stage.
So this is what people always say. My wife is the main dish. They always like, oh, you get all the attention, blah, blah, blah. No, there would be no me if not for people like you, Zulf, and my wife. Honestly, we would be roaming around, walking aimlessly, never knowing, bills wouldn't be paid. Like there would be, honestly, there really is no zing without the zag, right? There just can't be.
But I think it's right. You've got the ultimate where it's always nice to be free and open and do what you like to do. And that's what's encouraging for other people to see that, you know what, it can be done. If you team up with the right people and get that in the right place. So like, for example, today we're recording this episode for YouTube. We're doing a live session on Reddit at the same time. We're recording the audio version. We're taking out snippets for TikTok. So there's 5 things going on right now. So if you are podcasting and you're a busy person, we'll probably call this the last tip because we've kind of covered a multitude of things today. But if you can do something where you test your workflow to get 5 pieces of content out of 30-minute session, you've got a week's worth of content there. So you're sorted for your business. If you need to know more about that, you can search zulftalks.com, where I basically they're all free courses on YouTube that explain exactly how to do this. There's simple softwares out there like Open Broadcast Studio software, which lets you record, and Audacity for the audio. So you don't have to spend loads of money on that. The only time you need is a little bit of time on your own education just to use it and get familiar with it. The first few won't be excellent, but as you get better, each episode will get better and better and better. And then you'll be like our guest Larry today, where he'll just naturally come to you, sit in front of a mic.
You've made me so much more productive, Zulf. I feel so much more productive.
That's good. But listening to it makes you productive. Make sure you take a little snippet of this and do some of these things, because then that way you can start getting better and better and better. So I'm going to say thank you to my guest today. It's a pleasure speaking to him, and it's a great episode. I will see you on the next one. zulftalks.com.